Welcome to Voices of the Valley. The second season of Whitewater Valley Presbytery's podcast explores the theme of innovation.
The church really began a concerted effort to look inside and to determine what can we offer, what are we offering, and one of those things was to be more open to our community, to be more resourceful, to be a beacon to the folks who are outside our walls.
In the first episode of Season 2, Dr. Webb Parker, founder and director of Irvington Arts Collective and director of music at Irvington Presbyterian Church, will share how the idea of a community arts organization came to life and grew, building it with the community and not for the community.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Voices of the Valley, the official podcast of the Whitewater Valley Presbytery of the PCUSA. We are in our second season, and this season's theme is innovation. I am Jenny Hymack with my co-host,
Bo Brown. Hello, everyone. Today we have a very enthusiastic guest, the Dr. Webb Parker. Webb holds a BM in church music, an MA in music education, and a PhD in music education and choral conducting. Webb spent most of his career as an academic musician, serving universities in Oregon, Mississippi, Maine, and Indiana. He also taught public school in Alabama.
Webb has over 20 years of church music leadership experience. But if you are from the Whitewater Valley Presbytery, you might know that Webb is the director of music at Irvington Presbyterian Church. And he currently serves as the Senior Director of Innovation and Strategic Partnerships with Arts for Learning Indiana, which is an arts non-for-profit to create art experiences in our schools. And if you are from the Irvington neighborhood on the east side of Indianapolis, you might know Webb Parker as the founding executive and artistic director of Irvington Arts Collective. And yes, you heard it here. Webb has 3 jobs. Welcome, Webb. We're so glad you are here.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you. Thanks for the invitation.
You're welcome.
Well, within our theme of innovation this season, Jenny and I thought it would be interesting for our listeners to have you with us today because we want to hear about the newly founded Irvington Arts Collective. We've been looking into how people within the presbytery have used innovative ways to do mission, create worship, and faith communities. And the IAC is a new project that you and Irvington Presbyterian Church started. Would you tell us about how this idea began, and how did you make it happen?
Sure. This has been an idea that's been in the back of my head for a very long time. Creating a space that is really designed with the community, not for the community. Creating a space that allows a very broad definition of what we call the arts, and also creating a space that allows arts participation, arts consumption, the doing of the arts, as well as the experiencing of the arts, but finding one, the time, and two, the resources and the right place just hasn't lined up until now. I was fortunate to run into Liz Kasnak Hall, who I believe has been on this very same podcast, and I was sharing some creative arts ideas that I had with for IPC with Liz, and it worked its way into a conversation about, in my utopian world, Liz, I would love to create this community arts experience. And Liz, being the go-getter and the extremely intelligent human being that she is, said, well, what's stopping you, Webb? And that began a conversation between Liz and I, and Liz thought that this was a great idea to bring in some resources and help from Irvington Presbyterian Church. And so that sort of snowballed into discussions with leadership at IPC, with the community of IPC. And then so I sort of fleshed out the idea, and presented that to the congregation. We raised more money than I ever expected us to in the first 2 months of just telling the congregation about this project, and then that then allowed us to apply for a grant from the Allen Whitehill Clues Charitable Foundation, and we were very, very fortunate to receive that grant, to help get the collective off the ground. So that's sort of
Wow.
the short story of how the relatively short story of how the Irvington Arts Collective came to be.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? Because that's just so awesome. And to hear that you raised more money than you ever expected, is really awesome to hear. What do you attribute that to? Why this project? Why did it receive so much support?
I think I have to attribute it to the community that is Irvington Presbyterian.
Hmm.
They found value in creating spaces to create community. They find value in the arts, and I think that was really the jumping off point. Is this the community of IPC is so incredibly community minded. As your listeners may know, IPC recently hired a new senior pastor, and we are happy to have Dr. Jonathan Reinick with us. And but that was a almost 2-year process between senior pastors, and we were very, very fortunate to have amazing interim leadership that were supremely creative and also supremely supportive, and knew that the work of the church couldn't be paused as we searched for a new senior pastor. And so I am indebted to Mo Wilson and to Liz, um, who really helped see this project through. And one of the things that the church did in trying to determine, who is the next senior pastor, who are we as a congregation, and who do we want to shepherd us, and the church really began a concerted effort to look inside and to determine what can we offer, what are we offering. And one of those things was to be more open to our community, to be more resourceful, to be a beacon to the folks who are outside our walls. So not just the community that is IPC, but the community that is Irvington, the community that is the East Side. And I think the congregation saw this as one of the ways that we could take that idea off of paper, and make it reality. And so I think I don't think I know the congregation at IPC. Without their support and dedication from the beginning, this project never ever could have gotten off the ground.
That's really cool.
Well,
Thank you.
my heart is just bursting here. So, full disclosure, I was a member of IPC for 18 years, and my husband was the head of staff. And so and it's so powerful. It's so rewarding, so exciting to hear about what the congregation has built. And just so Mo Wilson is the associate there. Liz was the interim. She's helped out with the congregation. So just to give them, those two wonderful women, credit and of all that they have done, and certainly in the transition of the 2 years of transition. But my heart is just exploding because I'm just so excited, because to start something like this that we're going to hear more about, when there isn't a head of staff, I mean, I think that says so much about a faith community.
Yeah.
And their stability and their, like you said, they wanted to be this beacon outside of the walls and a resource for the community. And so you birthed this thing. And so let's hear more about what is the Irvington Arts Collective, and what have you done? And just be clear, it's been up for a year. Is that right?
The collective officially started in January of 2024, so just a few months ago. But the fundraising, the planning, the logistics of the project has been underway since really late 2022. As far as the throwing around the ideas and organizing and writing grants and those sorts of things. So we've been working on this project for probably about 18 months, but the collective officially opened January of 2024.
And I do want to give credit to John Rennick. I mean, I know he cut in on this at the tail end, but I know he is so full and support of this, and
incredibly supportive from the very beginning, and and so that we yes, certainly appreciate that. To answer your question, the thing that was most important to me was that we created something that all the community could be involved in, no matter your faith background, whether you are a person of great faith, whether you're a person of a different faith that isn't Judeo-Christian, whether you're a person who holds really no faith at all. We wanted to offer a space, a community resource, that the entire community could come together. As an educator, I have never called myself a former educator, even though I left the classroom 2 years ago. I'm always a teacher, and the teacher in me knows that the most important thing we can teach our students is empathy. And that's an easy objective, but it's so hard at the same time. Teaching empathy. And the way that we learn empathy is we are around each other. We share stories with each other. We ask about differences and we embrace those. But within embracing difference, we also find those commonalities. And that's what we wanted to do. That's what IPC wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do, is to create this space. And so I think the first thing to know about the Irvington Arts Collective is that all are welcome. It matters not your background. It matters not your faith belief. The Irvington Arts Collective doesn't exist as a proselytizing institution or arm of the Presbyterian Church. It exists as a community resource to help us create community, facilitate community, grow empathy, and learn who our neighbors are. And so that's the most important thing. I built the collective on four pillars, and I know we're just being heard at this moment. But if you visit the website, you'll see our logo is just an I for Irvington Arts Collective, but it's 4 pillars, and that's how the collective is based. So. Here's my bias. I am a choral musician. It's what I have done my whole entire career, at all different levels. It is who I am. It is my training. It is what I love. And so the first pillar of the Irvington Arts Collective is Harmony Collected, which is our community chorus. One of the things that was most important to me when creating that pillar, and I actually wrote it into the bylaws of the collective, Harmony Collected must and forever, as long as it exists, remain unauditioned. It must be a space where anyone, no matter your musical background, no matter your training, no matter your experience level, can come and join in the communal act of singing.
Beautiful.
And the communal act of storytelling, it's just fun. I mean, again, hear my bias since I am the director, but it's just plain fun. And we've met so many different people from the Irvington community. You know, I told my partner, the night of our first rehearsal, we had advertised and all that good stuff. And the night of our first rehearsal came, and I was leaving the house to head to rehearsal. And I told Kevin, I said, you know, if 10 people show up, I I can work with that. Like that is, I will be so stoked if there are 10 people who want to come sing with us. And 40 people showed up, and I was ecstatic
Wow.
about that in that first rehearsal. And so that's the first pillar. Let me move on. You hear my bias and my excitement, but there are other things I'm really excited about with the collective. So the second pillar is actually we're creating an art gallery. This is a pillar we're still working on. We are hoping to have our first show in the art gallery beginning in November to align with some things that are going on both at IPC and within the collective in November. And that's a revolving show. That we have some artists here on the east side who are helping me curate, and we're excited about that. The third pillar is what we call the studios at IPC, where we are using one of the things that was really important to the congregation at IPC was to use the building, be a better steward of the building. And I don't mean steward as in taking care of. The building is beautifully taken care of. The congregation at IPC, the staff who take care of the building. So that's not the stewardship I'm talking about. It's the use of the building. So it's a big church building that often sits empty. Many of its spaces sit empty throughout the week, and so we were looking for ways to use that space more effectively, more efficiently. And so we've designated several rooms in the church that are going to be used for what we call applied instruction. So it's one-on-one instruction in music and art and dance. And we are currently looking to fill out that roster and get that pillar off the ground as well. There is a plan to partnership with local universities and their arts education majors. Again, here my bias. I spent 15 years as a music education professor and working with soon to be arts teachers. And so it was important to me to give those folk a space where they could practice what they are learning. And so we are looking forward to those partnerships to bring in arts education majors to teach one-on-one lessons to anyone. We often think of starting an arts lesson when you're a kid. I'm gonna put my kid in piano lessons. I'm gonna put my kid in singing lessons. I'm gonna put my kid in painting lessons, which is great, awesome, and wonderful. But really, we're gonna focus this instruction on our adults in our community, because I cannot tell you the number of people who hear me play piano or hear me sing or come listen to the choir, and they'll say something like, gosh, I always wish I had taken a voice lesson. I always wish I had learned how to play the violin. I wish I knew how to play the piano. Well, friends, it's not too late. Whether you are 4 or 400, it is not too late to experience the joy that is the creation of arts, the learning of arts. And so we're excited to get that off the ground. And then finally, our last pillar is what we call contemplative meditation. I wanted to offer an experience for the community that allowed communityness, it allowed togetherness, it allowed reflection in the arts, but also honored those folk who the church has hurt. I think those of us who practice this Judeo-Christian faith, if we pretend as though the church hasn't hurt some folks, then we are ignoring much of our population. I myself have been hurt by the church as a gay man who grew up in a very very conservative evangelical denomination, and so I wanted to create a space that honored those folks, that said to those folks, there is a place for you within a spiritual community. There is a place for you if you're questioning. There is a place for you if you have determined that faith is not for you. There is a place for you in our community. And just because you don't hold true to our Judeo-Christian beliefs, our Presbyterian beliefs, you are still part of us, and we want to be able to fellowship with you, and that's how we grow. That's how we create empathy. That's how we understand our neighbors. And so contemplative meditation, the other part of that was really really important to me was that we didn't just do it, create, without researching. That I am not versed or skilled in the techniques and the science and the art of meditation. And so I wanted to make sure that the things that we created are are true and right and well researched and community minded, and not something that we, picked up on YouTube or something we saw someone else do. And so we have contracted with a private firm, Mindfulness Based Pedagogy, which is actually based in Bloomington. Their director, Dr. Frank Diaz, is also a professor of music in the Jacob School of Music, where he runs the Arts and Wellness Center at the Jacob School of Music. And so we have four folk who are involved with the Irvington Arts Collective that are going through a 16-week training to understand contemplation, to understand meditation, and specifically to understand how to create those experiences for the community. And that was what was very important to me. So those folks are going through that training right now, and we're hoping to get that pillar off the ground in January of 2025. So those are the four pillars of the collective. The community course is up and running, and we are working on those other three pillars to get those off the ground as well.
You're listening to Voices of the Valley, a podcast of Whitewater Valley Presbytery.
Thank you so much, Webb. Yeah.
Yeah, what amazing pillar, what amazing ideas. A great blend of different community outreach.
When I think about the folk who have left the church, when I think about those folk whose faith tradition isn't like mine, um, I think it could be daunting. I think about for myself, would I walk into a space that's a different faith tradition than mine?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I don't know that I would. I don't know that I want to believe that I would. I want to believe that I'm curious enough that I would do that, but I think it can be very daunting. And so,
Mhm.
with this community-minded focus of the Arts Collective, I thought it was really important to create a space of faith, a space of spirituality, um, a space of belonging, that didn't necessarily revolve around the Christian church. Now, that does not mean at all that within that space we want you to set those things aside. That is not at all what we want you to do when it comes to the contemplative meditation. We want you to bring all of who you are, all of your faith journey, your faith beliefs, your lack of faith beliefs. We want you to bring all of that into that space and know that you are welcome in that space.
Yeah. Yeah, and meditation is such a central part of so many traditions.
Yeah.
I think of
Yeah.
like Sam Harris, who is an atheist and has done some extensive research on the benefits of mindfulness. And so it is that sort of a center set, sort of, we're all here to be in the moment and to experience the awe of just the goodness around us, of
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the hurt of sort of an exclusionary form of Christian faith that you experienced as a child or as a young person. And I just was in awe listening to how that pain, that hurt has been transformed into something so beautiful that's growing. And wow, 40 people showing up. It really is. That's remarkable in this day and age when we have so many other options
Right.
for our communal life or,
Mhm.
sitting on social media. And that brings to mind the challenges. You are doing some very innovative things as part of a faith community. And, maybe on the coast, it may be a little less innovative, but we're in the heartland here in
Right.
Indiana. So are there challenges that come along with that? And I don't just want to dwell on the challenges. So how does the community sort of help overcome those challenges in the midst of it?
Sure. I've over the last, I don't know, several months, I've developed this philosophy. Well, as an educator, my philosophy was always you have to start where they are. I would tell my students that all the time, start where they are. You have to start where your students are. And so I started there in that space when I began thinking about the community as my classroom, because my classroom is what I know, pedagogy is what I know, those are the things that I do. So that's the thing I related it back to. Start where they are. Well, where is the community? I don't know. I have to ask those questions. And so that's what we did. We asked some questions of our IPC community. We asked questions of folks just in the Irvington community who were not involved with IPC. I remember coming to several different events like the health fair, obviously the Halloween festival, the luminary and the lighting of the candles in December, and any chance I got to speak to someone in the Irvington community and I actually didn't keep it just to Irvington. I went all over the East Side asking the question like, what if there were an art center, if there were a place focused on community and the arts, what would you want? What would you need? What would you expect? And so it led me to sort of this new development philosophy that I've been using called with, not for, developing the Irvington Arts Collective with the community, not for the community. Because I think we all can take our own experiences, we take our own biases, we take our own assumptions, and so when we begin to develop for something, we're developing within the realm of those experiences, those biases, those assumptions, and I believe if we change the preposition there, then we're asking the questions. Well, what do you want? What do you think we need? And one of the things that kept coming up, one was singing, and a place to sing, a place where you could sing. And not have the fear of an audition. Auditions are scary. They're very scary. As far as I know, here in Irvington, there are none to just come sing without any expectation of experience or an audition. And so that was one of the things we heard. The other thing that we heard, um, maybe even more so than singing, was mental health. What can you do for mental health? How can you help mental health? And so that's really how that pillar of the contemplative meditation began to be developed. Was the community was really saying we need some mental health assistance. We need some ways um, to refocus.
Hmm.
And I by no means am I any sort of mental health professional, but through lots of discussions and speaking with mental health professionals, coming up with this pillar of the contemplative meditation is how we felt we could start that process here in Irvington, here on the East Side, and I'm excited to see what that develops into and where it can go. I feel like a politician because I haven't answered your question yet. I'm telling you all the things I'm excited about. You're getting back to your question. The challenge is, what are the challenges? Is I have all these ideas and I'm just me. And I can't tell you that I do a great job of delegating responsibility. And so I have to be better at that. I have to be better at doing that. I have to be better at knowing that this community is so incredibly supportive that there are a multitude of folk who who will help me run with this. And I will say, anytime I've asked someone, can you help me with this, can you help me with that, there are multiple folks who stand up and say yes, we can do that, yes, we can help you with that. And so I have to get better at delegating responsibility. But that is one of the challenges. This is a part-time job for me as far as being the executive and artistic director, and so I do have my job with Arts for Learning and with IPC as director of music. So the biggest challenge is feeling spread a little thin sometimes. And then I would say the other challenge is advertising and marketing. There's so much competition for eyeballs. There's so much competition for ears, and there's only so much that we as humans can soak in a day and remember. And so you may see one of our radio spots. You may see one of our posters around town. But it may go, go in one ear. I was about to point at my ear, but that's not going to help since we're all just listening to each other here. So, may go in one ear and out the other. So it's just that idea of marketing and and building community that way is challenging. But Harmony Collected, the chorus has been really great for that. Word of mouth, people now know that it exists and they can be a part. And so I would say capacity and marketing are really the two challenges. I am so very thankful for the support of IPC. IPC has given a substantial amount of space, resource, and time to the collective as part of its development. And like I said, the Clues Foundation, the Alan Whitehill Clues Charitable Foundation, has given us our startup funds to help get this off the ground. And so, thankfully, in this very moment, I can focus on those logistics things and not necessarily the money fundraising things. But those certainly, as I look forward, as I look at challenges moving forward, fundraising and making sure that we can keep these programs up and running. So
And
that's those are the so immediate and then long-term challenges, I think.
it kind of leads me into my next question. So one of the reasons for this podcast is to offer help in other faith communities in the Presbyterian, getting ideas out there. And so, I wanted to ask you, if there was another church in the Presbytery or faith community that wanted to start something similar to this, what would you say to them? What advice do you have for them branching out, building a community, something like this?
Yeah, so that I would say first that has to start internally, and there has to be support internally. I don't mind throwing out some numbers because I'm so incredibly proud of IPC. I told IPC when I was trying to get this off the ground, so that I needed to raise $10,000 to get it off the ground, to even have granting institutions look at us, to even be able to begin the logistics projects of getting it off the ground. And IPC, we raised just almost $20,000 in about 6 weeks. And I'm so incredibly proud of the community for that. And find what your community is interested in. We knew from the surveys that we had taken that IPC is interested, as far as its community relations. IPC is interested in two things. Well, lots of things, but these are the two that came to the top. The arts and using the arts, IPC is so very, very supportive of. And then your listeners may know that IPC has a relationship with refugee families and refugee organizations, and supporting those families and organizations is another important thing to IPC. So we were able to identify what it is our community found and held most important. I think the support internally first is paramount to help get something like this off the ground. And then I would say the next step is you've identified the thing that is important to your community. Then bring the stakeholders in, bring the ideas in, bring lots of brains in to be creative, to think creatively and divergently about what you can do to create a program, or what program would best work for your community and your facilities. And once you've identified that, then ask some questions. Ask your community some questions. Ask your neighbors some questions. Is this the thing you think that this community needs? Don't be afraid of the fundraising side of things, even if you don't have experience doing so. And I say that because in my experience, there were so many folk, both in my circle at IPC and then also in my arts nonprofit circle, who were willing to sit down with me and talk to me about grant writing, who are willing to sit down with me and talk to me about fundraising. And so I think that's important too. It goes back, I think, Jenny, to maybe a shorter answer to your question, is the idea of with, not for. What can you do with your community, not for your community? And I think when you identify the with, that's when those ideas come of, oh, well, we could do this and we have XYZ resources to do so.
The situation of us being the savior, the church
Right.
being the savior
Right.
of a community that you may not be familiar with, and which we know the church has a history of that. So I really like how that the core of this idea has come straight from them. Yeah, you had that little spark, but you reached out to them.
And I love that you call attention to that about not the church not trying to be the savior of the community. And what that brings to mind is, like, this is my first church job was when I was 18 years old. And I have held a church position pretty much since then. And one of the things that I noticed, and especially with historic congregations like IPC that's been around for 100 years and has this beautiful Indiana limestone building and is, harkens back to when you picture a church, you picture the building that is IPC, right? And so in my experience, churches often remember the community that was, but don't ever go out to minister to the community that is.
Yeah.
And neighborhoods change. Irvington has changed a lot since 1920. Irvington has changed a lot since 2000. And so understanding who the community is right around your four walls and not sitting inside those four walls, lamenting the change, but embrace the change. You can't, it's never going to go back. It's never going to be what it was. And you have to also remember within that context, I think, that when you say something like, quote, the good old days, my question to you is, for whom?
Exactly.
For whom? And
great,
so
great follow-up question to that.
Like, for whom, right? And so I think that I go back to my with, not for, learning who your community is and what you can do with them. And I think the church has to be less fearful of folks that aren't like us. The church has to be less fearful of folks who don't hold our same faith belief, because they too are part of our community. Absolutely. And at least in my Bible, Jesus didn't tell us to just be involved with the folk who look, think, and act like us.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it seems that Jesus encouraged many of the things that IAC is the pillars on which it rests, getting away and sitting in contemplation. Not that people are getting away in this situation, but inviting the type of artistic space that is inclusive. One of the things I was thinking of is some of my experience of a part of the community of artists that I've experienced is there has been some exclusionary, because there's a standard of performance and a standard of quality that many musicians and visual artists have come to expect. But that does leave out part of the population. And the subject of neurodivergence is on my mind a lot recently, and particularly after the Democratic National Convention with Tim Walz's son and some of the reactions he received as a person with neurodivergence. And so the fact that this is an unauditioned, the first part of this is an unauditioned choral music atmosphere is just such beautiful representation of, I think, what ministry in the Christian way is all about. And I really thank you for for fostering this environment and for planning and contemplation, because certainly you need that space to pause and reflect as well. And hopefully you get that.
Yeah, yeah. And in in PhD school, one of the first things they teach you is this concept of an operational definition. And that's where you as the researcher determine what this thing is. You get to say this is the definition off which I am basing all other things. And to speak to your point about the exclusive and the exclusionary nature of the arts, specifically music, it can be very, very exclusionary. And it's often based on someone's definition of excellence. And so for me, it's about how do you define excellence? And there are a multitude of ways to define excellence. I do believe that there is a place for the high level trained musical ensemble, the symphony chorus, dance troops, the Indianapolis Opera. I will support those institutions until my dying day, because I do believe they're so incredibly valuable. But I do believe also that the arts are for everyone. They are for everyone. And my definition of musical excellence for Harmony Collected is, did I brighten someone's day in this rehearsal? Then it was excellent.
Wow.
Did they have fun? Then it was excellent. And you know what? As a musician, if I can sneak in a little bit of pedagogy and teach you how to sing just a little bit better, great, awesome, fantastic. It's all about how we define excellence. And too many folks in my profession define excellence through a lens of training.
Sure.
But training shouldn't keep us from experiencing the arts and in any of the arts. Again, I'm a musician, but painting, drawing, dancing, writing, hip hop, spoken word, whatever it is that you're drawn to as a creator, then you can define excellence for you, and we define excellence for our community as an experience.
And those
Beautiful.
all four of those pillars, they all promote healing, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, research has shown when you're singing in a choir or singing, it does relieve stress. I
Yeah.
mean, these are all things that are interrelated. The community aspect. If you're on the Near East Side in Irvington and you live all alone and you don't have a lot of friends and you decide, you know what, I'm just you get the courage. You get the courage to walk in this environment that you've never been in before, which can be hard enough for some people. And then you are feeling you have found a community, and that has helped you as well.
Yeah, totally.
That
Definitely.
is ministry.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is ministry.
Definitely. We have several singers in Harmony Collected who told me, I haven't sung since high school. I haven't sung since high school. And that makes my music educator heart so sad, because I preach to my students, pun perhaps intended, that music, the arts, are a lifelong activity. You never have to stop doing them. And to be able to provide a resource, to provide an opportunity for that high school choir singer to come back after 35 years, for that person who's always said, gosh, I wish I knew how to watercolor, to pick up that brush, or that person who says, violin is so cool, I'd love to learn how to play one. To provide the opportunity for that person, that's what we want to be able to do.
That's awesome. Well, we end just about every conversation we have on the podcast by saying this could be 3 or 4 parts. We could have 3 more conversations just to kind of unpack and drill down on various things you mentioned. There were so many good themes, and the one that really sticks out to me is the with and not for, because that seems to be a running theme throughout the work that you're doing and the way that you encouraged others to not duplicate your efforts, but certainly be inspired and innovate in their own ways. So thank you for that sort of thematic focus that you gave us today. Um, one other thing we like to do. Oh, Jenny, did you have?
Well, I just was going to remind everybody that we can link your website
Okay.
Yes.
and provide another avenue of marketing for you and this group. If we were
Yeah.
able to do that. So
Is there a
website-
donate?
Yeah.
There's a donate link.
There is. The website is irvarts.org, and all the information about the community course is there. Our first rehearsal is September the 9th at 6:30 at IPC. And so anyone who wants to come check us out, we certainly invite you to come and do that. We'd love to have 40 more folks this year as we get started again for the fall semester. And then those of you who are listening who may be artists, in a couple weeks we're going to be putting out a call for East Side artists who would like to show at our first gallery opening in November. So check out the website for that as well.
Webb, would you be willing to offer us and the listeners a brief charge to send us off?
Sure. Can I sing it?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I want to share with you this charge that has so incredibly inspired me over this past year. This is both text and music written by a composer, African-American female composer, singer, songwriter by the name of Leah Morris, who the collective got the fantastic opportunity of working with in a collaboration with the Indianapolis Women's Chorus this past March. And Leah taught us this piece she wrote, and she was inspired by the poet Amanda Gorman and her poem "The Hills We Climb" that she delivered at the 2020 inauguration. And I just absolutely love this text because it captures what we're trying to do at the collective in being the light. So it goes, "There is always a light when we are willing to see it. There is always a light when we are willing to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to shine our light in the darkest night, to climb this hill. Together we will be the light."
That is
Wow. Thank you.
so exciting.
And my only regret is that we didn't have quality studio equipment to record that. So if that at all comes through broken up or anything to the listeners, I wish you could have been here to experience it live. And yeah, truer words could not be spoken, especially at this time. Yeah.
Well, thank you for this opportunity and to talk about the collective. As you can see, I'm only kind of passionate about it.
Just a little bit.
And I greatly appreciate the support that we have received from the Whitewater Valley Presbyterian community and IPC and all the leadership that here at Whitewater Valley. I am incredibly grateful. So thank you for this opportunity.
We thank you so much, Webb, for being here. And this has been a great time together. And I agree with Bo that, there's a lot more. I think I've got some other questions I want to ask you, but I think if you are interested in anything like this, and please find the website.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Webb.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Voices of the Valley, and to our guest, Dr. Webb Parker, for sharing the story of the beginnings and continued development of the Irvington Arts Collective. We hope you'll join us for our next episode featuring Lisa Longo, worship arts team leader at Northminster Presbyterian Church of Indianapolis, as she discusses how the designs of the worship arts team enhance Northminster's worship experience. For our host, Reverend Bo Brown and Elder Jenny Hymack, and Presbytery support staff Dawn West, this is Craig Shaw reminding you to let your voice be heard and keep innovating.